On Vanguard Live, I am Precious Chukudi. We begin with the front pages of the papers this morning. Starting off with Vanguard. Vanguard is leading with Petrol. Oil marketers propose 550 naira per litre price to Dangote. Rider says the talks ongoing over price margins. Others, and that's coming from marketers. And let's enjoy benefit of domestic refining. And that's coming from expert consumers. Sector-wide impact expected, and that's coming from CPPE. Refinery owners task federal government on $1 billion fund. On page 26, mistakes Nigeria made, and that's coming from General Ike Wanchuku. Yusuf to Ganduje, you speak of failures after 8 years of misrule. You can read that on page 9. Terrorist kill army lieutenant, wound 4 soldiers. You can see that on page 9. Edo communities commend Obaseki task him on more roads to ease campaign. And of course, stories above electricity metering will enhance investment growth in power sector. That's coming from DE-HARYOR boss. And NPAN, NGE, NUJ bonds, CSOs, others seek probe of journalists detention. And of course, a Monday interview, tariff hike, how we are solving Nigeria's power problem by Adelabu. We take a look at the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian is leading with road to 500 billion naira recapitalization. Bank owners lobby seek adjustment in share capital composition. We can see an infograph on that report. Naira's defense, debt servicing gulp 1.4 trillion naira as foreign reserves dip. Gavi Alliance initiates a $1 billion program to boost vaccine production in Africa. Electricity tariff hike. SCCPC orders pressure federal government to revert decision. APC leaders allege plots to disrupt Ondo primaries. And focus on fixing Nigeria's problems, not Labour Party's internal crisis, says Obi. Yusuf knocks Ganduje over criticism of administration. And on page 5, criminals in camouflage. How rising impersonation of operative complicates internal security. Take a look at the Punch newspaper. The Punch is leading with federal government plans 3 national ID cards for 104 million Nigerians in June. Rider says the NIMC awaits a presidential approval for May launch. Says procurement will be seamless. Nigerians to get different e-cards for banking, social intervention, ECOWAS activities. Salah, federal government declares Tuesday, Wednesday holidays as Tinubu arrives Lagos. Female London Lagos solo driver gets heroic welcome. Indian bound the trafficker vomits, excretes 80 cocaine wraps in Lagos airport. Stories above, dollar video, release report of Ganduje's probe. Kano tells EFCC. $2.3 billion Siemens power project transformer substation arrives in Nigeria. And lastly, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, OPS takes power tariff hike protest to Tinubu. And that's how we can take on the front pages of the papers. Join us after the break. We'll be right back. Alright, welcome back. If you're just joining, still today in the news of Vanguard Live, I am Precious Chukudi. Joining me to talk about some of the stories on the front pages of the papers this morning is Mr. Aliyu Mohammed, CEO of Magnet Communications, also former editor of Daily Times and Concord Newspapers. Good to have you join me this morning, sir.
Good morning, Precious. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Alright, let's delve in, and we're talking about petrol, oil prices, and according to reports, Dangote refinery and oil marketers have intensified, efforts at taking final decisions on pricing and delivery of petrol nationwide. And the independent marketers are saying that they proposed about 550 naira per liter to Dangote refineries. What's your take on
550 naira, you said. That's too high. It's still too high. I know we can't get to the level that we were before. Unfortunately, there is this proverb that whatever goes up in Nigeria doesn't come down, and that is becoming glaring now. I was expecting that petrol will come to nothing less than 300 naira, or at most 350, 400. But now they are talking about 550 at a time Dangote refineries got crude from the NNPC, even though we read that they attempted to import some crude oil. Nonetheless, the crude that they got through the NNPC should be considered enough to have a good reduction in the pump prices of petroleum products in Nigeria. I'm not talking about petrol alone, all the products, diesel, petrol, base oil, that's engine oil, and the rest, aviation fuel. A flight from Lagos to Abuja now is over about 250,000 one way. It is extremely high, and people should bring it down. The resultant effect of such a hike in price is that there will be very low patronage of the airlines, because not many people can afford to spend almost $500,000 on any trip to Abuja, considering the fact that if you don't have a home in Abuja or a friend that you can stay with in Abuja, you will have to contend with very expensive hotels, very expensive food and all that. That means if you are going on a trip, a business trip to Abuja, you must have not less than between 800 and 1 million. I don't know how many Nigerians can afford that. But then, what is good is good. And I think government should come in at this stage to compel all private refineries, not only Dangote refineries, because the Port Harcourt refinery is also coming on stream with refined petroleum products now. All the refineries must be compelled to relieve the masses of the heavy burden that they are bearing as a result of the hike in the prices of petroleum products in Nigeria today. That burden is heavy. Some people have died as a result of that burden. Some people cannot even feed. So, you know, when you reduce the price of petroleum products, it affects all sections of the economy. Transport price will go up, and it will have spiral effects on other things. So they should sit down and make Nigeria peaceful and easy for people to live in. A lot of people have gone abroad. Some of those who has jackpot are lucky to have found something to do, but many of them are not finding it easy, even abroad, because we have this entire global recession in the world today. But we feel it more here because certain things are not going on right in this country. I will just say that I hope I will have the opportunity to expatiate on that. You see, government should ensure that fuel price come to a level that will be convenient for people to buy. Today, not many people are using their cars because they can't afford the pump prices of petroleum products.
So what other ways do you think the federal government can reduce our huge dependence on imported petrol?
One of them is ensuring that the refineries are working. Some private refineries have been licensed. I don't know what has happened to them. I don't know why they are not working. I have been able to speak with one or two promoters of such refineries. They lamented that they are unable to get crude allocation, the allocation of crude oil from the NNPC. If you have licensed private refineries, it becomes very expedient for you to also complement their takeoff efforts with crude allocation. Dangote refineries cannot be the only beneficiary of Nigerian crude oil. The gesture that has been extended to Dangote refineries should be extended to other private refineries to enable them take off. You see, in an atmosphere where competition is fairly allowed, we won't have this crisis. It is when there is no competition that somebody will sit down and limit the price of petrol to 550 naira per liter. If you have competition among private refineries, the other refineries can come with prices that are lower than that. But in a situation where there is no competition, and I know Dangote, like I keep saying, it thrives on monopoly. We should not monopolize the distribution of crude oil to refineries in this country. We should extend the same gesture to other private refineries that are ready to take off. It will help the economy. It will create a level playing field for all the private refineries to operate on.
All right, so moving on. What's your take on the recent increase in tariff, and why do you think it's very difficult for the government to be in charge of distribution, transmission and generation of energy to protect the masses?
Let me say this. We have just talked about removal of subsidy and its effects on petroleum products. We are talking about the removal of subsidy on the generation of electricity or distribution of electricity. Generation and distribution of electricity. All over the world, government do subsidize certain things to ensure that there is comfort for the citizens, and Nigeria cannot be an exception. If government is generating electricity and you want to commercialize it at a time when there is this so-called 0% subsidy on petroleum products, you also aim at having 0% subsidy on electricity consumption without creating an opportunity or enhancing the financial capacities of the citizens is dangerous. If government is going to remove subsidy on electricity, I'm not saying they shouldn't do it. It should be gradual. Not that you remove it from 40 or 50 something kobo or 50 something naira to 200, adding over 400%. It is crazy. The current minister of power is a disaster to that ministry. Since he came in, it's been one problem or the other. It is either the national grid collapses today or some people have stolen cable. Honestly, I am not satisfied. He should be one of the first ministers that should be removed. He came out and was talking about how people are careless in the use of electricity. Electricity that you don't give, that will come for 2 hours, and you say people should not put on their freezers. I am surprised that a minister could descend to that level to argue about non-supply of electricity to people. What is your business? I have loaded my fridge and freezers with food. You have not given me light for hours. I've had to use my generator for 2 or 3 hours because I can't afford the cost of diesel. And you suddenly bring the light. You are saying I should leave my fridge and freezer unpowered. It's a most embarrassing statement from the Minister of the Federal Republic. I think the government should look into his continuous stay in that ministry and do the needful. It shouldn't be there.
So, what do you think are like the shortcomings of the privatization process?
We've listened to a lot of allegations coming after the privatization process by the Goodluck Jonathan government, that the man just sold out the industry to his friends. It is unfortunate that each time we take important decisions that will affect the entire Nigerians, we consider friendship in this. You are not looking out for the best, even if that person is not your friend. It is one problem we have in this country. Look at the commercialization undertaken by Atiku Abubakar when he was vice president to Obasanjo and the chairman of the Economic Council of Nigeria as the vice president of Nigeria. Almost all the privatization that he did were fraught with absolute corruption. Things were, Ajaokuta was sold out for peanuts. Government just recently reacquired Ajaokuta steel rolling mill. Don't forget that when Umaru Yar'Adua became president, he came in at a time when Abubakar had sold out the Warri and Port Harcourt refineries to some people. He reversed that privatization on the grounds that it was fraught with a lot of fraud. Every privatization that has happened in this country should be revisited, because these people selling these things don't have the interest of the ordinary people at heart. All they want is more money. There is a former head of state in Nigeria today that has been accused of having a percentage in terms of money on every recharge that you do with a particular mobile telephone company in Nigeria. If that is true, it should be investigated. Somebody owning shares in a foreign company while at the same time he was a president of Nigeria. This company came into this country at the time he became president of this country. So we really must consider the interest of the people in taking some vital decisions that are likely to affect the well-being of citizens. How can somebody sit down and you are making billions every day from the energy sector and Nigerians don't have light? And that billion has continued to rise every day and people don't get service, and somebody is coming to blame Nigerians for that situation, that Nigerians are not economical. They are supposed to use their freezers. What is your business with how I use? You have given me a prepaid meter and I am loading it. I am recharging that prepaid meter. What is your business about how I put on my fridge and freezer? It is not your problem. All you need to do as a minister is to ensure that enough light is generated and distributed to Nigerians. How I use it should not be your problem, because you already have a prepaid meter assigned to me. So if I don't recharge that meter, I won't have light. I mean, it is silly that somebody will sit down and be giving that excuse as the reason why there is no light in this country.
All right, the categories of consumers from band A to and the likes, what are your thoughts? Especially because there are people of different earning capacity in, this same.
You see,
band.
this is a strange thing. Light is light. Why should you now put people on band A, B, C? Because you want to make more money. It's extortion, outright extortion. I am not in support of it. Light is light. Light doesn't know if somebody is rich. It is the government and those who are in charge of distribution that are categorizing the level of supply. But what about the people that are living in Okokomaiko? What band do you want to place them? Are they not human beings? God is not in support of what they are doing. A human being is a human being. We all should have the same right to everything that is given out by government, especially when that service is being paid for. All this band A, band B, band C is an attempt at extortion of money from the rich. And I can tell you that that attempt will collapse very soon. The government should concentrate more on power generation. The level that we are now is still very low for our country. The level of power generation that we have today is still very low. Smaller countries like Ghana generate more kilowatts than Nigeria. If you go to Ghana, there is no disruption of power. Even Niger Republic, where we have military rulers in charge, they have a more stable power supply than Nigeria. Then what is wrong with us? You begin to ask. If Niger Republic, that our president was trying to harass the military into submitting to the dictates of ECOWAS, could have more power supply than Nigeria, the giant of Africa, then we need to sit down and do our own work very well. I insist that the Minister of Power is incompetent. The government should find a replacement for that ministry.
What's your take on increased metering of households, and how do you think that the government can provide a level playing field for operators in the metering sector?
Precious, if we have light 24 hours of the day, I am not against an increase. If it costs you more money to ensure that there is 24 hours power supply, if you increase your rates, I am not going to grudge. I will accept it. It will now be my own duty as a consumer to manage my electricity consumption. It is not for any minister to be telling me how to manage my electricity consumption in a situation where there is hardly electricity supply. It is unacceptable to me. As I came here this morning, there was no light in my house. I had to look at my suits and see the ones that are still okay for me to wear. But that is the truth. I am very, very blunt. I'm being blunt with you. I had to look for one that is okay. Because if you wake up, when you hang your clothes, you want to stretch it and be sure that it is okay before you go. I couldn't do that. So the important thing for the government to do is to produce power, ensure there is steady power supply. If you now come out to announce that now that there is steady power supply, we want to increase our rate, so nobody will grumble. Individuals will now sit down and say, okay, I have 2 fridges. Let me move my things to one. Let one remain. No, leave the management of the consumption of power to Nigerians, not a minister sitting down at a national press conference teaching people how to manage electricity consumption when we have not provided electricity. It is senseless. It is annoying. No, government should provide electricity first before you start talking about the rates, whether you want to increase the rate or not. And then some people that use solar these days, they have problem with their solar system. I have an inverter too. But when you don't even have light to charge it, you still have to go back to your generator to be able to charge that inverter for your usage. So it is so frustrating that you stay in your house for 2, 3, 4, 5 days without light, and the light now comes within 2 hours, and somebody is teaching you how to manage it within those 2 hours. It's embarrassing. So let us sit down and plan what we are doing well. You don't bring people who are openly incompetent to manage a situation to come and handle it.
All right, let's take a look at Mr. and Mrs. before we go. Mrs. is speaking. She says when you stood at the entrance blocking the way, she said, "Excuse me," and you gave her a squeeze. good for nothing, shameless man. And then Mr. responds and said, I thought she said squeeze me.
That was harsh. Maybe Mrs. took some alcohol. I don't know.
All
That
right,
was harsh. Good for nothing, shameless what? Over what?
because I mean,
Anyway, it is funny.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Ali Mohammed, the CEO of Baggy Communications and former editor of Daytimes and Concord Newspaper. Thank you for sharing your thought with us this
Most
morning.
welcome.
Also, remember that you can equally like, share, and subscribe on all our social media platforms showing on your screen. To find out up-to-date stories, go to our website www.vanguardngr.com. Find out more. I am Precious Chukwudi.